All right. So the focus of today's training session is all about the dashboard and the way that we are identifying it as our end user strategy for you. And one of the things that we're coming in with as a team is trying to provide a more consolidated, refined entry point and way for you to view these reports. The way we're going to do that is through this concept of the dashboard. And so I thought this, because it's one of our early office hours, really just getting everybody some visibility to what these dashboards are and some of the power that is out there about these dashboards. Okay, so with that being said, just a little bit of review from things that we are already familiar with. We know, and let me share my screen here so that I don't forget to do that as we start moving through some of these conversations. So we know that when we are coming into the system, the new process, we talked through this a couple weeks ago in our first office hours, is that we're really going to start leveraging and harnessing the power of reports.ucsd.edu. Right? This is where we're all going to start. We talked about some updated verbiage here that we're working on and getting approved by leadership. This is where you want to put your bookmark, right? This is where you want to pull those pages through. And then you can start to see some of the work that we've done. We, on the Oracle side of this kind of BI world, we're just embracing this word panorama, right? Like this overview of all the different areas that we have available to you. And within these sections, these kind of linkable places, right? So everybody's starting for us from reports.ucsd.edu to consolidate that. All right, so far so good. Again, just kind of a reminder of some of the process changes and some of the ways we're moving forward with getting our bookmarks all updated and making sure we're all on the same entry point. Awesome. Okay, what we're then doing is we are going to have this reporting link, right, take you in the world of Oracle to a dashboard that is designed to help you solve the problems you need to solve while you're trying to do the job it is that you're wanting to do. And what that means is that we're going to be combining a lot of different reports together so that instead of clicking around and around and around and around, we're helping consolidate the information into these kind of single areas. And in the world of Oracle, the dashboard looks a little bit like this. I'll get that bar out of the way. I feel like we're going to be fighting with that bar the entire time, but that's okay, right? Just giving us a starting point. One of the things that I decided to bring up for this demonstration is an existing dashboard that is available to you. It's a very beginning phase dashboard. You can see that there are 2 pages on this dashboard, and the dashboard itself is called the Project Information Lookup. And the idea behind this dashboard is I need information, I need to look it up, and it's somehow related to projects. So one of the first tools we have is the POETAF COA lookup. Put in the information, pull back the chart string values and the POETAF data that's going to support you in the project. And right now, we're working on some enhancements always, but right now you can search by your project organization, which is the O of POETAF, or you can search by your project manager. And that's going to help you get to your project strings. And then the second page, also about projects, bringing information about expenditure types. What expenditure types are they? What OFC account code do they map to? Is there an end date on the expenditure? So you can see just by the nature of this information, it's just kind of nice to know data about projects. And I have a feeling we're going to have some enhancement requests and reports are going to come in that are going to further support this kind of need to look things up. And this is going to be a consolidated tool that we're providing you with these pages. So I thought this would be a good one to look at, just to get us a little more familiar with how dashboards work, right? That we're kind of going out away from a report by report by report solution. And we're really trying to coordinate and combine information together that just makes sense together. And we might have dashboards focused on, actually we have one that we built for you with the project cost and expenditure details, right? That's a bigger dashboard with a lot of different pages that are all about your expenditure details. We're working on some dashboards tomorrow. We're having a big webinar on the UCSD Projects Panorama dashboard, which is really driven to help you identify your projects and your financials to those projects based on project manager or PI or department or FINU as we're starting to work through this data. So with all of these reports that we're getting ready to launch, we want to make sure that you as consumers are really starting to become familiar with how these dashboards work and kind of the navigation, right? Okay, so reports.ucsd.edu, you click the link, it takes you to the dashboard. You can see the name of the dashboard in the upper right-hand corner, and every page on the dashboard will be linked up here at the top so that it's all available to you. Again, these are going to grow over time. And what I love about this strategy for you is that getting to the dashboard doesn't change, but you might find 3 pages next week. You might find 6 pages next week. You might find 25 pages next week, because we're starting to really pull these through. But instead of killing you with links and killing you with bookmarks for each individual report, you just need to know how to get to the dashboard, and then all of those reports are available to you. All right, so far so good? Any questions about reports.ucsd.edu to this kind of conceptual idea of multiple pages on a dashboard that are all hopefully well organized to support what you need? Great. Now, when you are working on this dashboard, you'll notice that I have some other links up here on the right-hand side. I'm going to caveat this. I'm a pretty high-level user in the system, so I have a lot of links over here. You guys are not going to have all of those. But one that you will have is right here. It's your dashboard link. And so if you're already in a dashboard and you need to go to another one, they're all right here. These dashboards will line up with the links on reports.ucsd.edu. So that once you're in the dashboard framework, as you start getting comfortable with this, you can continue to move around these dashboards without having to go to reports.ucsd.edu every time, right? You start there, you get in, and you navigate from there. Now, there's nothing wrong with keeping reports.ucsd.edu open in a tab and always starting from that point, right? We always know that that's our safe, protected starting point. But as you start to get more comfortable inside this world, we just want to let you know that that is a capability, that you can go to your dashboard menu and jump to other dashboards that are in the system. All right. On this dashboard, you have the ability to work with parameters and prompts. And so when we were working with the projects team and we were working with OPAFs about putting this kind of lookup table of expenditure types together, they asked if we could include the ability to say, I just want to see financial aid and scholarship expenditure categories. I just want to see personnel expenses. I just want to see the stipends. And so in essence, it allows you to decide in these categories what you want to look at if you're going after something specific, because this is kind of a big list, right? Look at how many of these there are. It's huge. So we wanted to give you a way to kind of streamline that. And then we also presented you with the ability to search by number. So anytime you are in one of these dashboards, we've tried to give you some ways to limit the data so that you can really focus on what you want to focus on. I think as consumers, we're all familiar with the concept of parameters, right? We're going to have these parameters. But what I love about these dashboards is that when you choose your set of parameters and you apply those changes, you can see right here that the parameters are right there for you to continue to just change your mind. Now I want to see payroll. Now I want to see academics. Now I want to see, and instead of having to go back and forth to pages, everything kind of lives right here, right, as you're applying. So most of the time, the pages that we're going to build for you are going to have these types of parameters to allow you to interact. And we also have the ability here to reset and go back to the default, right? Maybe we have a set of values here and we're not getting data, and so we just want to reset and go back to the beginning. When you are working with these parameters, you might have the ability to select multiple options. And if this list, right, is not giving you what you need, here at the bottom, you have the ability to search. And that's going to bring up a larger list. Notice that it remembered the 3 that I checked. And I have a shuttle box here, right, where I can change my mind about what I want. And that helps me populate this form. And as you start getting more familiar with your data, you can also just type in what you want. Be careful. Make sure your case is right, make sure you're typing in the value, but once you start getting more familiar, you can type those values in to drive that search. So a lot of the times as we're working across these parameters, we're trying to support the many different ways, right? We're going to have brand new users who need a little bit of help. We're going to have people who've been doing this a long time and they're like, I just need to know every 539505 series expenditure type. Right? And you want to type that in and hit apply. So as you're looking through these menu options, right, this will let you know exactly what it needs to look like to properly apply the filter. All right, awesome. And now, and I'm just going to actually remove this and pull back my big full list here, because now I want to take a look at the ability that once we have the parameters in and we've kind of clicked apply, what else can we do as consumers? And I want to preface this by saying, there is nothing you can do at this point that will change the underlying logic of the report. So this is your ability to make some modifications based on your personal needs. And this is the beauty of dashboards, because I, as Beverly Baker, might want to see this data a little bit differently than Joe, than Sally. And so built into these dashboards, we are opening up some interactive capability for you. And one of those is to sort. So maybe it's back and you're like, I don't have any idea how this data is sorted. Let me sort by expenditure type. And it applies that sort to the information and brings back data according to those choices. Now, you sorting it does not change what I'm seeing on my dashboard. It's just for you. Maybe you want to come in and sort by end date, because you want to pull up anything to the top where the end date is populated. And so all of these are expired, and you want to pull those to the top of the report. So we allow you to sort the data so that you can put it in an order that makes sense to you. And you can change your mind or continue to push those through as you're working through those sort capabilities. All right. In addition to sorting, we're also allowing you to move the columns. I would like to see the end date at the very beginning. And what we allow you to do is decide to do so. So watch my mouse really closely. You can see that the headers of my table are all blue. And when I move my mouse over one of the columns, do you see that teeny tiny little gray tab that kind of pops up on the top? And if I move over to the expenditure category, do you see that little tiny gray tab that pops up at the top? And there it is on the top of description, and there it is on the top of the type. That's what you want to look for, because you can then get your mouse on top of that. And did you see how my mouse became the kind of compass point cross arrows? That's how you know you're in the right spot. So if you want to move a column, you come over, you hover up to that little tab, you get that compass point, you hold your mouse down and you move it. And do you see that kind of shaded blue line? That is visually telling you where if you let go of your mouse right now, it's going to drop right there. It's going to drop right there. It's going to drop right there. Now, this whole time I'm holding my mouse down. Okay, so you hover over, you find that perfect sweet spot where you're on the gray little tab, right? Your arrows are visible. You click your mouse down and then you follow the blue. And now if I release my mouse, my columns are in a different order. Joe's seeing the columns in the same order. Sally's seeing the columns in her order. I've just changed it for me. Because when I'm looking at this, I want to drive it by end date. And if you don't like it, you just pick it right back up and put it right back where it started. So one of the things we want to empower you with as a consumer is to decide how you want to see your elements and how you want to see your columns. And we try to, in our requirements, vet a common way or a common order in which to view these values. But we know that some users might have different ideas about that. And this is where this interaction gives you that power. All right. Additionally, you can move a column out of the table and watch how that works. For this particular example, I'm going to use the expenditure category. Notice that I'm hovering over and there's my compass point. And instead of going side to side, I'm going to move this up. And do you see how there's these little boxes? And this one really teeny tiny says table prompts. I've now given myself a runtime changeable table because I decided to prompt by this column. So if you want to have all the values and set the parameters this way, great. You just grab the column and you move it to the table prompt section. And if you don't like it, see how teeny tiny that little gray section is? Ooh, right there. Drop it right back into your table. Maybe you want to do that on the OFC account code and you want to push that up to the top so that you can easily prompt and filter that way. So we don't want to tell you the order of these columns, right? We want to give you a starting point and give you the ability to move them around yourself. And here's the beauty of it. Let's say you move these columns around and you're like, nope, I don't like that at all. Just leave the dashboard and come in again from reports.ucsd.edu and it'll go right back to your starting point. Because this is the definition of the page. You're simply interacting with it so that the definition never changes. Okay. Awesome. So when it comes to the layout, right, we know we can't be everything for everyone. There are going to be people who want these columns to be in a different order. And instead of waiting for us to try to prioritize a copy of a report that's perfectly customized to you, just move your columns around on the dashboard. It allows you to be much more proactive about the way you want to see your data. All right. Additionally, you might not want to see something at all. It's not about the order. It's not about your usability. It's just, I don't want to see it. And so built into every dashboard page is the ability to right-click the column and say exclude. I don't want to see it. Okay, you don't have to see it. Is Joe still seeing it? Absolutely. Is Sally still seeing it? Absolutely. But you are not seeing it anymore. So let's combine this together. We've hidden a column. Maybe you change your mind and you want to bring it back in. You right click, and this time you include the column to bring it back into the table. And now you want to move it to the left, or you want to move it to the top. Change your mind again, right click, exclude. Now, little trick for you. It is more trustworthy to right click the header of the column. So as a training tip, if you always want to make sure right click works, put your mouse on the header. Right click, exclude. Now you'll notice in this right click menu, I also have sorting and including and moving. So we talked about the drag and drop. We talked about clicking the arrows, but you can also just operate from this right-hand menu. Make sense? Okay, now here are some other things that you're going to see. If there are numbers on your report, maybe you're looking at balances or expenses or accounting credits and debits hitting an account, you are going to have the ability to subtotal that data. And when you right click on a column in this list, you might see, show me the subtotals, show me the grand totals. So that some people may not be concerned about those, some people might want to see them. And conversely, if we have totaled something for you and you don't like it, you can take the grand total off. So the idea here is that instead of having to wait for a custom layout, you get to interact. You can hide columns, show columns, move columns, sort columns, total, not total, based on your specific needs. All right, so we've excluded our column. We've moved our categories up to the table prompt section, and we like it. This is how Beverly Baker wants to see this dashboard. But remember from earlier, I said, if you move a bunch of stuff around and you don't like it, just leave the dashboard and come back in and you'll go right back to where you were before. And that's great if you don't like what you just did. But if you like what you just did, you don't want to have to redo that every time you come to a dashboard page. So as part of our end user strategy, once you have this page the way you want it, take your eye up here to the very right-hand corner of the page. Do you see this little gray gear wheel? You can click on that and say, save this current customization. And you can call it, I'll call it Beverly's favorite view, right? Whatever you want to call it. Okay. And now, anytime I visit this page, I can say apply Beverly's favorite view, and it goes right back to this. Let's watch that in action. I'm going to go out of my tab here, and I'm going to go to my dashboard list. I'm going to show you this kind of visibility here. We're just moving in. I'm going to just move to another dashboard and come right back in, right? Just need to simulate leaving the dashboard and coming back later. And I'm going to come right back into this dashboard. Now, for some of you, it might be you're done for the day and tomorrow you come to reports.ucsd.edu and you come in. But for right now, we're going to just use kind of internal, right? We're here in demo mode. I'm going all the way down to my lookup dashboard. There's my project lookup dashboard. Give that a couple of seconds to load. There's my expenditure type list where we were. And look, right? So if I didn't like what I did, I just got myself back to the starting point. Let me get back to that starting point. But I liked what I did. And so up here, I can say, apply Beverly's favorite view. Now my mouse always gets trapped up here at the top. Beverly's favorite view. And there it is. And here's what's exciting. When you save this customization, you can say, make this my default. So every time you come back to this page, that's what it'll look like. With all the hiding and the moving and the sorting and the parameter picks. And here's what's beautiful about this. It will also take into account the parameters you've specified. So let's say that you're on a dashboard and you have your fin unit in there and you have your project manager information in there, and this is the way you run this report every time. Save it. And it keeps track of the parameter values that you set. It keeps track of the movement and the sorting of what you've set so that you don't have to keep starting from scratch every single time.
Hi, Beverly, just a time check, bottom of the hour, Steve.
Fantastic. Thank you, Steve-O.
You bet.
Talk to me. Who has questions?
Steve-O answered a question that Heather had about using just like the first three numbers of the expenditure type starts with. Steve-O, when you say the contains option, what is that referring to? Is that like the percentage?
Yeah, it's a wild card. So it'll look for the string anywhere in the actual parameter name or the value, I'm sorry. And then the starts with could be just what I think Heather maybe.
Yeah, so you're talking about here, right? When you're doing this search, you can say starts with 163, and then you just shuttle them all over. Now, Heather, one thing that I think is really interesting, and I thank you so much for raising that question, is that when we were going through this starts with, I made the leap that it meant the whole code. But if you're telling me that the business recognizes the first three characters, then this list, an enhancement to this list could be, I don't care about the last three, I just want the first three. And so maybe depending on how you want to go after that, right? That's something that could come in and we could discuss that with projects folks to like have the business decide if that's the right use case for that. So in the current build, which is in production, you can use this contains option, type in 163, search, and push it all over, right? Because there's your contains in. If we're thinking maybe the full list is too specific and you just want these values to be the first three, That's a great enhancement request. Let's get that into service and support as an enhancement request, and we'll get that to the project's business and see how they feel about it. And that could be a great adjustment to this parameter. And thank you for suggesting that. That's fantastic.
There's one more question in the chat from Isabella. It says, I had a question about showing values when they are null values in the analytics view, but I'm not sure if that is part of this training.
You know what, Isabella, this Q&A is training driven for those who have questions, but can go beyond that. So go ahead and ask your question, because again, this last half hour Q&A, we obviously want to cover questions about the customization so that you walk away with really great knowledge, but there's also time for other questions. So go ahead and bring that up.
Okay, so I guess, I mean, basically, if I'm in the analytics view, and I think I have the answer, but I just wanted to make sure. Let's say, do a simple example. I'm pulling all of the projects, and I'm pulling, some projects have award numbers and some don't.
Yes.
So if there's 10 projects and 7 have award numbers and 3 don't, I still want the all 10 projects to show and to not have the values excluded that do not have, that are missing those 3 project numbers, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you want a mixture of award data and blanks, basically, right?
Correct.
Your null values. Yeah, so the default behavior of the analysis is exactly that. We will show you data where it's data, and we won't show it to you where it doesn't exist. One of the things we have as authors is, do we really want blanks? Or do we want it to say something like no value available, right? And that becomes a part of just the usability of the report and the choice about how you want that data to reflect. Where that becomes a problem is when the data is not necessarily available as a null, but is really just not available with that set of criteria. And there's a couple of ways that we can handle that. That is a much more extensive author training session and a fantastic idea for an author training hour. So I'll put that on my list to talk about, and you and I can talk about that offline as well if it's an immediate need for you. But the default behavior is to show you values where it has it and blanks where it doesn't in that combined like sponsored, non-sponsored view.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and then there's a way to say, if everything is null, I still want to see it, please, right? Especially when we're individuals, because that's really important. And then there's a way to deal with the fact, and quite frankly, I call it the case of the missing records, because you've added a column and all of a sudden your data set disappears. You went from 50
correct, or that record disappears, but the others show, correct, exactly.
Yeah, so in that case, the case of the missing records, there is a procedural way to fix that, and that's a fantastic training opportunity. So I'm going to work on getting that videotaped and getting that out to Blink, because I think that's a situation we need to talk about in depth.
Great.
Awesome, great questions. I feel like you guys are taking it so easy on me.
Hi, Beverly. I have a question.
Yeah.
For parameters, can you use multiple fin units? So like housing and dining, we have 20 different fin units that we need to pull. For example, one of the expenditure category, ASSA assessment, for example, for 20 fin units. Are you able to do that in the parameters when you're...
Yeah, so there's a visual cue there. So this brings up a really fantastic continued learning about things, right? So one of the things that we're going to work toward as the BI team is to better get an understanding of, do you need to be able to search across multiple things, right? Like fin units in this case.
Right.
And if so, there's a really quick visual cue for you as a consumer. When you go to the parameter,
okay,
if you see boxes, you can pick multiples.
Okay.
If you don't, it's one and only one.
Okay.
So if you see these check boxes, then you can come over here and maybe all your fin units start with the letter B, right? Obviously I know they're numeric, but just because of our data being a B, see how this brought back everything with a B in it? Boom, searching them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Only if you see the boxes. So.
If you see the boxes.
Okay.
Exactly. And if you don't see the boxes, that means that there's a use case or a concern or a restriction about going beyond one value. And it's because the requirement has called for it somehow. We do not make that decision unless it's a technical bug that we're trying to solve for. That really comes from the business to say, I need to be able to search multiple fin units. Okay, great. And we've checked the flag that says, yes, you can search multiple options, and you'll see the boxes.
Okay.
Now, pay really close attention, because when you populate them, do you see how they're just separated by a semicolon?
Yes.
So for my typers, 2000056 semicolon, 2000057 semicolon, if you want to build your own list by typing, right? So we've got the boxes. If you see the boxes, you can have multiples. And if you want to type them, just make sure there's a semicolon in the middle.
In the middle. Okay.
Yeah, no spaces, just a semicolon.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Great question.
Beverly, another question in the chat is, can you show us how to save multiple projects in a project cost report?
Yes. Are you talking about a specific project cost report? Or Eva, is this on your dashboard?
That was my question. I only know of one project cost report, so.
No, of like 42. I'm just kidding. We have 42 copies out there. Are you talking about the project cost detail report?
I click on projects and then click on project cost and then manage project costs.
Oh, so you're talking about the user interface, the actual application.
Yes.
Yes, that is a completely separate framework.
Okay.
So the customization does not apply to the application. Wouldn't that be so nice if it did? I will take a look, however, because I do know that the user interface allows you to save searches. And I will see if there's documentation already out there. And if not, I will send you some steps on how to save your search on that page. And if your search includes those multiple projects, it'll save all those projects.
Okay.
And that would be like the closest I could get you to a customization on the user interface.
Or Beverly, is there a report that you have that shows all the costs of a project and we can put multiple projects in there? It doesn't have to be the user interface, maybe one of your dashboards.
Yeah, we have several. One would be the managed project costs report. The other one would be the monthly expenditures report, which allows you to search by project. And that one, I think I have it here in test.
I think the issue is not by project, but maybe by the whole FINU. So a manager can see everything going on at one glance.
Yes. Yes. Let me just, it's down here at the very, very bottom of my list. See why reports.ucsd.edu is going to be so helpful, because there's like so much information happening here. I'm trying to see if I have this dashboard built for that. Let me see if I can find, I'm in the test box, so things look a little bit different in terms of where they're located. So let me just see if I can find that particular report. But then as a follow-up to this office hours, I'll include a list of like the project cost data report. And then I highly recommend you come to our webinar tomorrow, because we're going to blow your mind with the project information you're about to see.
Okay.
So come to that webinar 9 to 10:30 tomorrow morning. But let me see if I can quickly find this one that I'm looking at. Eva, you know the one I'm talking about, right? That has the expenditure categories.
So on reports.ucsd.edu, there's the project balances with expenditure details, and the expenditure details tab is that's row by row all the expenses that hit a project, and you can choose your entire org so that you can see all of your project expenses. Although I don't, you can look them up by your entire project organization. It's just you want to make sure you're applying other filters, because it's a lot of data.
Right, because we're talking like massive amounts of information.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see. This is a report that we have out there. I think this is the one I'm thinking about that Marissa and her team use. Let me just load this. This is a dashboard that we haven't published yet, so that's why it took me a little while to kind of find that. So this would be a way to look up by accounting period, award, and project. And then let me just link to that one from reports.ucsd.edu. This one, right, that has the third tab.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to log into Prod, but that's okay. While this is loading, I see some things coming in through chat. Can someone like read that and see if there's any questions we can answer while we're loading this dashboard?
I see the question from Mona Lisa. I'm not sure. You're saying, can you send me this information also? What information are you requesting?
You mean like the reports, the project cost reports that we
Yeah.
have? Yeah.
That's the one that Beverly was saying, that you can save multiple projects. There's a way of doing that.
Yes, for the save search, I will make that a part of the announcements for everything. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so this is the live project expenditure detail dashboard. This is where you would select your project numbers. And remember, the key to these parameters is if there's a box, you can select multiples, right? So that's one of the things that we always have to look at as we're trying to work through some of these values, right? Is there a box? And if you come up to this kind of shuttle box, there's another visual clue that you can select a lot of them, right? So the concept here would be the same. Pick the projects from the list. We'll see if those load anytime soon. And then come up here to the gear wheel and save that customization so that it's saved for every time you come back to this page. It's going to keep you from having to go in and search these values and enter them over and over and over again, right? To pull those through. And whether you're doing multiple fin units or multiple projects or projects and awards and combinations. So let's just pick a few of these, right? I'm just using my shift key to select a few, using that double arrow to just bring some over. This now populates that parameter, right? Look at that huge string I just set with like 200 some odd projects. Obviously, you'll choose the ones that make sense to you. You see how they're separated by semicolons, right? It's the same concept. This time we're talking project numbers instead of expenditure types. But I come over to this gear wheel and I say, save my current customization. And I want to call it my projects, whatever you call it, right? And it's just for me and it's my default. And you save that customization, and every time you go to the page, those parameters are populated because of that customization. Now, you can have one and then decide you want to overwrite that and just look at one project. That's fine, right? It doesn't mean you can't continue to play with these, but the customization will apply, set those projects for you, and then save. And there's no rule that says you can only have one customization. These are private to you. So if you want a customization for each project with all the things you've set up, you save this customization, you save that customization, you save this customization, you save that customization. So let me go back over to my test system where I trust myself to save things, right? And let me go back to my dashboard. And I'm going to go to my home page just because it's a little easier for me to find some of the things that I have been working on recently. It's just another shortcut way instead of having to go through that big long list. And this time, just for this particular example, I'm going to set my expenditure categories to these top three. And I'm going to apply that filter. Notice I picked multiples and the data reflects the three that I chose. Go back to your gear wheel. I'm going to save this customization as 3 expenditures. Name them whatever makes sense to you. Now, you can only have one default, but you can have as many as you want. And now I can say, go to my favorite view. And do you see how there's no parameters and everything's moved? Go to 3 expenditures. There's my expenditures. There's your projects already saved in the prompts. So the flexibility is there so that you could have 4 or 5 ways you run this report. And instead of changing things every time, you just want multiple customizations that you can flip back and forth. There's the power of the dashboard. This is why it's our end user strategy for you. We believe that you should be empowered at this level with the ability to move columns and sort data and load your parameters and save those customizations so that these dashboards become real tools for you to better look at and assess your data. So while this one is focused on expenditures, if it's projects, awards, PI names, fin units, VC areas, whatever you're using on these dashboards, save those customizations. Give yourself these shortcut ways to go back to the data as you saw it. Awesome. What other questions do we have coming in? Post where the recording will be posted. Let's see, let's go back to the beginning.
I think the only questions I haven't been able to answer are the one Heather posted about where the recording's going to be posted. And then Natalie has a question about that save for other options. Sorry,
Yes.
Save for others options.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so in terms of where these recordings are, I'm currently working with the Blink team. We are creating a consumer information page. And it's going to be every recording of all of these office hours and the resources that we have shared during those sessions. So as soon as that's available, I will make sure that we have it out on the communities of practice. I'll make sure it's in the newsletter. We'll get that link to you so that these recordings can be loaded up and available to replay and to look at any time, right? We're hoping that this just is embraced by the community of users who need to go back in and continue just learning and training. And if you missed something, come on in and check this out, right? We're also going to be building a knowledge-based article dedicated to customizations, and this video will be linked into that KBA as well, so that if you're reading through the document, if you want to see it live and see it in action, you can come back and visit this recording. So it will be there as well. And as soon as that Blink area is ready, I think she's finalizing some of the kind of locations of where it needs to live. We'll make sure that you have links to that, and we'll start that messaging so everybody knows where to go find these office hour recordings. Natalie, good eye on these customizations. Now remember, I'm a pretty high level user in the system. So here's how it works. There are 3 levels of access to Oracle BI. There's the consumer level access. I need to run reports. There's the author level access. I need to run reports and I need to publish them for other users to run. Like I need to write these. And then there's the security and administration level, which is all about making sure things are protected and some of the life cycle things that we're putting into play. As a consumer, you can only save customizations for you. As an author, you can save customizations for others. So from here, you can say save the customization for other people. And that means other consumers, other authors, other admins can see your customization on the list. So that's one of the things that you can do for those of you who are authoring reports, who are already potentially seeing some different variations. So consumers, create your own. Authors, create for others. Now, I am a member of the security team. I'm a member of the administration team for the BI world, which means that I can take your customizations and I can let other people have them. So one of the things that I want to encourage you to do, and when you're thinking about exactly what you're talking about here, supporting your department, supporting a bigger group of people, is to submit a ticket to work with me to get the customization out to them so that they can use it. If you're an author, you can do that on your own. But if you're a consumer and you're starting to think about being a power user for the bigger department at hand, come talk to me. Let's get it in place. Let's get it out there. I think these are extremely powerful. I think we need to start really embracing these. And my team of admins is here to support setting those permissions for those customizations so that they are available to your team. So if you're a consumer, you will see me and the ability to make it default. If you're an author, you'll see others. And because I'm an admin, I can specifically say who it's for. So if you need to add that level of security, just reach out to me through a SNOW ticket, service and support ticket, and we will start that process of getting those in place for you. But for my authors, this is why I'm thrilled to see so many authors on the call today. Leverage these, help your users, help them to save some of these things so that they can just go to saved customizations and run the report to support what they need. Maybe don't call it Beverly's favorite view, right? Come up with good naming conventions for these, but we highly encourage our authors to include these as you're moving your analyses to dashboard, as you're moving your reports to these end user strategies. Does that make sense about the 3 levels of access? Who can do what? And we're there to take it to the next level.
Will we be able to create a report and then email the link to, let's say, a professor and have them look at that link?
Yes. Yep. So currently we have some security issues happening on the SSO side of the house. So out of the box, the concept is send them the prompted link. It has all the values, it has all the information, but here's what I'll tell you, your SSO doesn't like these links. So you create the bookmark link. And you create this bookmark link. And do you see, give it a minute, do you see how there's this yellow thing up here now that says a bookmark link has been created? Take it, copy it, paste it. It takes them to this exact page and SSO is happy for UCSD. So in this gear wheel, everybody can create a bookmark link. So you can create a customization for others and tell them just how to run the customization, or you can send them the bookmark link and that will get them in. They'll have to log into the system, but it'll appear with the exact values and setup that you are looking at when you create that link.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're working on this, right? We're trying to understand what's going on at the SSO level because it's not interpreting the auto redirect to the sign-in page. It's just something that we're trying to identify, but the create bookmark link directly has been tested and it's working in all environments. So you should be good to go.
5-minute check, Beverly.
Yes, overview of reports versus dashboards versus user interface. Misty, fantastic question. And this is exactly what we're designing these office hours for. Okay. The user interface is where you enter data into Oracle. It's what the link takes you to on Blink. It looks like this, except instead of test, it just says OFC. And I think production is green, like the banner's a different color. This is the user interface. And any page that I go to here, when I'm looking at, I think the question came in about project costing, right? So here you are in your menu and you come over to your projects or your invoices or wherever you are. This is all user interface. And you're going to hear me and my team call it the UI. It's just an acronym. I use it all the time. Catch me if I do and you don't know what that means because I try not to use acronyms without defining them. This is the user interface. And the things that you are seeing here and working with here are driven by the Oracle rules of engagement for the user interface. This is all you, and you might be looking up data, looking up an invoice, looking up a payment, but you're doing it through the user interface framework. And it's always about this kind of bar at the top and the specific ways you could do things. Reports are the raw objects that pull data. And the dashboard is how we are delivering that data to you so that you can interact, customize, sort, move, and engage with that data. So the report, that's the technical structure. Where are we going to get data? What's it looking like? How are we putting it together? And the delivery mechanism is the dashboard. So this right here, this data right here, this is coming to you because a report was written to do that for you. And that report was loaded onto this page of the dashboard, and we're delivering the link to the dashboard so you can run it. Does that make sense? So user interface, data in, data out, rules of engagement, all about Oracle and how you can move around that data. Reports, the technical objects that we are building to help push this data. It's read only, we're just pulling data out of the system to help you out. The dashboard is the pages you go to that help organize and coordinate these reports, hopefully by relatable, usable subject matter.
Okay, so is it safe to say we don't see the actual reports, we see what the dashboards provide?
You are seeing the reports as they are published on a dashboard.
Okay.
So this is the report published to a dashboard page called Expenditure Type List. But the reason we make a distinction is because maybe expenditure types need to be side by side with something else. So we can have a report of expenditure types and a report of expenditure or revenue types side by side. So a dashboard page could have 5 or 6 or 12 or 15 reports on it.
Okay.
But this is a report that has been published to this page that you have a link to go see on this dashboard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so then is it the case then that we don't access dashboards from the OFC homepage, the ofc.ucsd.edu, that's only user interface stuff?
There is a place in the UI to get you into this framework. So from my homepage, right? This homepage is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And again, welcome to applications, right? They give you 1,000 ways to get to the same place. Under tools, under reports and analytics, under browse catalog, here's my dashboards. Do you see how that took me to the same place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So reports.ucsd.edu takes you right to the dashboard you want. And from here, you've got your menu. Through the interface, took you right here, and here you've got your menu. So no matter how you get there, that menu is your one-stop shop.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Absolutely.
Great questions.
Time check again.
Thank you. It is 5 o'clock. Come to tomorrow's webinar. You're going to be thrilled with what we have for you, which is exactly in line with Michelle's question. Come tomorrow, come tomorrow, come tomorrow, come tomorrow. We're going to blow your mind. 9 o'clock to 10:30. Thank you guys so much for coming to office hours today. I hope to see you in tomorrow's webinar. We've got some really exciting things coming your way.